After Hurricane Katrina hit, Daryl and his boys couldn't wait to go after the really valuable stuff. All that precious, sparkling stuff out there, the stuff that was sure to bring huge returns in the hood. I mean that ice, just glistening and waiting for a hustler like Daryl to come along and stake his claim. And that is what he did every day. He headed out into the floodwaters to search for it, and every night he would return with both forearms sparkling. They even started calling Daryl the Ice Man because they knew if he could make it back to the hood at all, he was coming back with that real ice. You know the kind that he could take to the elderly folks trapped in their homes in the Ninth Ward. Remember them? The ones who were abandoned by official order in the middle of a catastrophe. Yeah, that ice. The kind of ice that could help keep them from going into heat strokes as they endured day after day, night after night, of 90-degree plus temperatures without a fan or air conditioner or even electricity. The kind of ice that could help them to preserve their food supplies as they faced disaster without a single sign or word of rescue for more than a week.
And the tsunami, was over there the next day. This is a part of America, no one can. No Louisiana Guards, no National Guard, nobody. I'm not talking about this a black and white thing, but y'all making it that way.
Lord have mercy, look at that mess down there. Poor Maddie and them still back there and all of that water. Now it's been 6 or 7 days. Look like the government ought to been back there to see after them by now. Well, I imagine that Perkins boy and his friends will be back there today. You know they bring some canned goods and what all else they say they need. And that Daryl they said brings them ice. Now I declare that boy is doing some thinking 'cause it ain't been nan bit of electricity in that city for more than a week. Look like to me they ought to had him in charge of things for that storm come there. Well, maybe they'll show up tomorrow, the government. I first met Daryl Perkins at the Tinley Park State of Hope facility, a location here in Illinois where some of the survivors had come after the hurricane. The day I met Daryl, I had gone there to pass out glasses. I want to see you try on your new glass. You know, I wanted to make sure y'all could see, so.
Yeah, they good brother.
Without knowing anything about Daryl's story, I could see right away that he was one of these people who we have depended upon throughout our cultural history to make us laugh to keep from crying, and I already knew that he had helped to provide this vital component of survival to whatever group he had been stranded with. As I listened to Daryl's story, I could see how he had so strategically used humor, sometimes to uplift and encourage, and at other times to help diffuse some of the anger and frustration that was intensifying all around him. In one situation where survivors were desperately gathering food at a Winn-Dixie grocery store and the atmosphere became so tense that it seemed like a fight could break out, Daryl strategically hollered out,
We say now if you got your Winn-Dixie card, you can save some money. You got your Winn-Dixie card.
I know the aftermath of Katrina has produced thousands upon thousands of horrific stories that I personally do not have the heart to tell. But there is one story I can help to tell. It is the one of a cultural legacy that has provided African Americans with the creativity, strength, and talent to get from one historic period to the next. This is that story. Where were you when the hurricane and the flooding started?
In the east is also by the Ninth Ward, too.
So what was that like? The wind started blowing and you were at your house?
We was in this apartment, and the water started, 'cause we was downstairs, and the water started coming up high, then started coming into the rooms. And me, a guy named Carl, and another guy named Dow, We was talking about we need to get away from here. We need to get out, because we starting to see stuff coming down. Wood started coming off. Slates from the roof was coming down, you know, hitting the ground, hitting that water. Then all of a sudden, the water's in the rooms. Now all the way in, you know. We got scared and we said, hey, it's time to go. So we left, we went over there. You know, we stayed that whole night until the next day.
How long did it take you to get from your apartment to the building? What was that like?
It took at least 15, 20 minutes to get across the street, just right across the street. It's not like it was far. You can stand and look at it, you know, and see it, you know. And,
but how come it took
because
so
the water was flowing so fast and hard down the street, and it was about waist high. Then it was raining, you know, and the wind was blowing, and I told him, I said, man, this feel like this hell. I thought we were gonna make it at first, you know, because we went to holding hands. Everybody was holding hands. We just hooked that arm and hold the hand, trying to get across that street. You know, we made it. I heard a lot of people say, well, why they didn't get out when they was told to get out? I could have, but there's old ladies there that I know couldn't get out. They didn't have the money. I didn't have the money to help them to get out.
You didn't invest in so much, and I stood there through Hurricane Bessie. And I said, well, I can stick it out, see what's happening, you know.
How come you all
Because
didn't
my
leave?
mother had to go to the dialysis machine. And after dialysis, they told us to call 2 days ahead of time where they could evacuate my mother. We called 3 days ahead of time. No one came. You know, we called Friday and Saturday, because she go dialysis on Saturday. So Sunday came, she couldn't go. So Monday came, that's when the hurricane came. And we looked out the door, and the water was coming so fast, we had to kick my mother's ceiling in and get on the roof.
And is that where you all stayed for the whole? No. How long were you on?
My mother was up there for about 2 hours. I swam to Winn-Dixie, 9 feet of water, to go get some water for my mother to drink. Come up from underneath that, there's a dead body. So got the water to my mother. We said, we can't leave her up here. Some boat came along with the National Guard. He tells me only way he can do for my mother is put her on the interstate. I said, how long?
On the interstate?
Yeah, man. In a wheelchair on I-10
Just
interstate.
sit her on the interstate?
That's it. Wait on trucks. I said, well, how long? We don't know. I said, well, I'm not putting my mother up there. House, 3 stories. Got my mother over there. I go outside. I said, I got to do something because she can't stay here. She have to go to dialysis Tuesday. I went and got a boat. And got my mother to St. Claude Street, where I seen a city truck. You know, he was a sheriff, and he said he would do that, but he got to go home and do something first. Then he'll come back for my mother. He came back an hour later. We put her in the van.
You don't know where she is now?
Yeah, they called me today. She's in Atlanta.
Oh, you heard today?
Yeah.
How many days is this after you last seen her?
Oh, man, it's been a week and a half. Yeah, I ain't heard
And you've
nothing.
been thinking the worst?
Yeah, because I thought she didn't make it.
How you been holding up through this?
Oh, man. Trying to hold my head above water. Just trying to think about God, you know.
You know, you don't treat people like animals. You know, cattle, no matter where they at or what situation they come out, they still human beings. Treat them like one.
We had too much time to evacuate people, and that frustrated me. That frustrated me when my governor of Louisiana gets on television and says, I didn't know this was going on. Well, where was you? We paying you tax dollars to do a job or to go on vacation. Your family was safe. Your family, you don't have nobody down there that done died that woman. We're getting tired of being misused and abused, and we're getting tired of being publicized as the #1 criminal. Everywhere you go, they're talking about black people. Black people. Every, I don't care where you, California,
Is that something
New
you
York,
carry all
everybody
day and
talking
all
about
night
black people.
with you, the fact that you're a black man? I mean, is that something that's just pushed to the forefront of your consciousness at all moments?
You guys, they make it that way. They make a black man think all he is black. Y'all call us what you want. We know how to survive. And that's the bottom line.
How high did the water get near you?
The water got 10 feet.
It was dark, had no lights.
I lay there on my back swimming.
That's why we decided to hold each other. If it's pulling one of us down, we have at least the opportunity, wherever we got in the hand, we're going to have to drop it and keep him from going down. Two of us going to keep walking and pulling him out. We ain't going to let him go.
When did you first see somebody to help you to get out of that situation?
I'll tell you, on the 8th day, that's when we start seeing.
That's when you first saw somebody.
We start hearing helicopters flying around. Every night they're flying around.
Now this before the National Guard even got here. Got kind of fed up. We said, well, hey, when Dixie ran over there, we had to go in it. You know, we went there and we was getting canned goods, you know, stuff that we needed. We went in there and we got the thing like, you know, potato chips, sandwiches already made, half sandwiches and stuff like that, and get that and get out quick. Go back, eat, at least you're full for that day. You know, if you didn't get enough for the next day, if you couldn't, you know, because you're trying to do it fast.
How long were you there in that building?
What
was that like? The rain continued?
Yeah,
the wind?
yeah, and the water went to raising even higher, you know.
You stayed there all night?
Yeah, we stayed all night until the next day, like sometime during that morning. And we went back over there, you know, and then that's when they gave us an apartment for upstairs. And, you know, the water had started receding and everything.
And you all just felt like it was over, you can start picking up the shingles.
Yeah, but the water came back. Over where we was, the water was down, way down by your ankles. You can see the bottom of the carpet, because we went in the rooms and see what it did. I mean, you can see the carpet in the rooms, you know, and we went to see, well, we had lost everything, you know. So now we're trying to go to the back where the rooms they gave us. Turn around again, here come the water raising again. I said, why? You see, got a hole in the levee. But from my understanding, during the hurricane, the hole was supposed to be there. So now where all this water coming from, if it resided and it's coming back, well, they say the pumps were working.
Where could that have gone, you saying?
Yeah. They say the pump was working. Now the pumps is not working all of a sudden, you know. See, there's some things I just don't believe, you know. The pump was working. All through the hurricane, the pumps was working. Now all of a sudden, they had a hole in the levee, and the pumps done stopped working. See, yeah, well, they get us all the time. But I can never forget Bessie. They say they didn't open up the spillway. Where all that water come from? They go on the pole people, you know.
So you feel it was rerouted in a sense?
Yes.
So you all were now back into the apartment?
Yeah, we was back into the apartment, but like I said, we was upstairs, and the water hit, all of a sudden the water coming back up, you know, hey, where is this coming from?
You were in that apartment until?
Yeah, because we went upstairs. There wasn't no water up there, but we had to leave out and go in the water to go get food, you know, whatever we needed. We stuck together, you know, because when we went out, we tried to go out in groups. You know, okay, well, you go take care of this, and you take care of that.
Old people on steps hollering, and I'm diving out my window, you know, swimming across the street to help old people, to bring them to the interstate, put them on the bridge.
Is your family there in
No,
New Orleans?
no.
I mean, did you have
there.
family members?
My mother, my sisters,
You were
and
able
a couple
to get
of brothers.
everybody out?
Yeah, they all left before I did. See, they left before the storm. See, I stayed because there was some people that I was helping, some elderly ladies that was there that I knew couldn't get away, you know. So I tried to do what I could for them, you know. Ice, you know, I was able to find ice. They called me the Ice Man. But I knew where to go at, see. And I told them, I tell y'all, survival instincts kick in, you know. And I knew wherever they sold fountain drinks at, they had machines there, you know, and it'd be about that wide, be full of ice. But my first party, if I only brought two, I go by them old ladies, and I make sure they got them two, and I make the others two more, you understand? But they always, you know, I always try to make them feel, give you calm, cool, you know. It's hot. You don't have no electric, you don't have no air conditioning, you don't have a fan. You're trying to at least cool your body temperatures down. And I brought them ice. They had food. I made sure they had plenty of canned goods, you know. friends, he's here, you know. His name John, and he didn't have the shoe. He had lost his shoes. So hey, we had to do a look for something, and you know. So we just went, well, man, look, let me go walk back there and get you some shoes. You understand? I said, what size you got? I said, man, I ain't gonna laugh. I said, but you know, if both of us look good, we might find them fast. 15. I said, no, we going the wrong way. I said, let's go over here to the yacht club. When we gonna get out of the yacht? I said, man, you need some boats. You know what I mean? You don't need them boats. Them ain't shoes, man.
I can imitate from Al Green to Lou Ross to Barry White.
Let me hear a little bit. Let me hear a little bit of Al Green.
Love and happiness.
Show me nothing.
Something that'll make him do wrong, make him do right. Hey, baby. Barry White was it. Girl, something wrong with me.
You have a beautiful.
Teddy Pilgrim said, turn off the lights, light a candle. See, you got me getting louder and louder. I'm going to bed.
You got a beautiful voice.
If you come tomorrow, I'll sing you a whole song, I promise.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to be here.
Good night.
All right.
There's like a container yard, not too far from us. They tore it up. It was train, you know, there's a lot of trains, turn over trains, railed them and stuff, you know. Cause they had a little, right next, not too far from us, they had where they built yachts at. And then we seen a big old yacht over there, see, if we can get over to the water, we might be able to leave. You know what I'm saying?
You gonna drive the yacht?
Yeah, I say, cause we're hot wide. You got your mind off of what actually was happening, like we were seeing bodies, you know.
A lot of bodies, man. A lot of bodies. Everywhere you turned, there was bodies.
Some of them were in their attics. But a lot of them didn't take nothing to bust a hole through the ceiling. So there's some things, you know, that I don't even say to y'all about what that happened, stuff we seen, you know. I mean, it's a lot. They know there's people still there, you know, in that didn't leave, because they know one thing. A lot of people, you know, just because they own these houses don't mean they have the resources to get out. And a lot of them are old, you know. They don't have the resources. They're just surviving, living, you know, trying to live comfortable as they can. You know, they don't have the money to
jump up and get a plane or
even go and pay for an apartment when they get there. You know, so they gotta depend on.
I never even thought about that, because they're saying leave, but if you know you don't, where you gonna leave?
Where you gonna leave to and go and stay? You know.
So that would have kept a lot of elderly in their homes.
Yes, and there's gonna be a lot of them in there that didn't make it. You know, and they knew that. You know, here it is, like guy say he seen on TV. He seen a whole yard of school buses. I mean, why they couldn't have took a school bus and went and get them other people? You know what I'm saying? They could have went and done that. They could have gotten a lot of people out of there. You know, because they don't have the resources, and they know they don't have the.
I don't care how big the storm was or where it was coming from, you know it was coming. You should have got the people out. That's the bottom line, you should have got the people out.
When it was all over with, where's the National Guards? Where's the federal government? You know? Nobody came to help. Nobody.
Police didn't even come that way. They didn't even come in the flooded areas.
So who was the distribution point for food?
They called them thugs, and people would come in boats and offer us stuff and give us. Y'all got water? I said, no. Y'all got this? They give us. They saved not only us, they helped, they abandoned Annunciation Hall with at least 25 to 30 old people that couldn't do nothing for themselves. These people went in there and got them to the roof when the helicopters started coming to get them off the roof.
The so-called thugs.
So-called thugs. The people y'all say was shooting at the police was always propaganda.
When can you go and see your family? Are there any provisions being made, or?
Yeah, they want me to, my daughter wants to send for me. And I want to go see my mother first. She wants me to come to, what's that in Memphis. But I want to go see my mother first because I know they're safe I just want to see my mother so
You wanna
right.
see
Because I
your
talked to her
family.
on the phone and she just sound weak.
That's how
Everybody's treating us so good here. You know what I mean? Everywhere you go, people said, you went from New Orleans? And they treat us with open homes. And I thank God for them.
I mean, the people here made us feel like we didn't leave New Orleans for as the neighborhoods. The rest of it, they can keep that, the politicians, and they ain't do nothing for us. We come here and we, you know, because, you know, you feel like you're still in the hood, you know, people warm welcome. I know I ain't a movie star and that, I said, but that's how they made us feel, though. You know, they made us feel like that. They made us feel like we was important, that we was somebody.
They done finally showed up to get Maddie and them out of all of that water. But they like to scare the half to death, and some of them say they even come to their houses with the guns out, ready to kick the doors in to take them out of there. But I know Maddie was scared to leave because them investors been after that property back there for years and years.
So well, I made sure everybody in my block was safe.
Right? They managed to get out because if I seen anybody, I told them about it. Some of them left one day, some left the next day, but the last one left the day before I came here. I said, well, okay, she's all right.
Despite the humility of Daryl and others like him, they were the first real heroes to show up in this story. Just by doing what came naturally to them, looking out for family, friends, and neighbors, they became the only emergency response team many of the elderly had during this terrifying week and a half of their lives. And while many media outlets chose only to portray survivors as a den of looters, we here at the H3o show recognize and honor their commitment to our
I know God blessed me, you know, because he saved me. See, I got to think about that too. Well, why God saved me? You know, what task do he have left for me to do? You know what I'm saying? I know there's a task for me to do. That's why he didn't take me.
There is not one thing funny about this nation's horrific negligence during Katrina, and no one knows this fact more than Daryl Perkins, who had to himself experience and survive this nightmare. But as I listened to the many stories of unspeakable horrors that they faced, I was deeply moved by yet one more important story that was embedded within them. It was the story of community, brotherhood, and survival, and the story of Daryl Perkins himself, a character who moves through the world with the goal and even the need to uplift anyone who crosses his path. And during Katrina, Daryl helped to perform a vital function by providing an outlet for the intense frustration growing among those he encountered. But even more importantly, Daryl strategically used humor as a mechanism to keep the tears and anger from interfering with the job at hand, the job of survival itself.
Not too far from us, they had where they built yachts at. And then we seen a big old yacht over there. See, if we can get over into the water, we might be able to leave. You know what I'm saying?
You gonna drive a yacht?
Yeah. Yeah, if we could, I say, cause we a hot wire.
Yes, I'm in the mountain. What a wonderful world. Oh yeah.